Welcome back. I've got Monika Guzek on the line. Monika, how are you today?
Excellent. Thank you.
Really happy to have you on the show and really looking forward to talking with you today. So, why don't you share a little bit about yourself and then we'll jump into the conversation?
Definitely. So I'm coming from Poland. However, I live really globally. So I lived in 7 countries, 2 continents. And what I'm doing for living is exactly embracing cultural diversity, generational diversity, and helping people to live more happy. So we can learn from each other around the world, I would say, how to do it and how to navigate through very challenging times, which we are nowadays having.
Yeah, it is definitely challenging. And you talk to people over history, there's always been challenges, but my goodness, the last 5 or 6 years have
Yeah.
been absolutely off the chart when it comes to challenging. You toss in pandemic, you toss in wars, you toss in economic challenges, you've got changes in governments and throughout the country and around the world.
Yeah.
All this unstable things plus the work environments, and we talked about this briefly in the pre-show, is just there's just seems to be a lack of happiness and joy in the workplace, and it's sad in many ways because, eh, thankfully, and of course with your travels and being international and whatnot, is a lot of organizations, thankfully, the ones that I've been a part of, have had a really diverse mix of individuals from all over the world, different genders, different races, backgrounds, religions, you name it. I thrived in those environments because you get to experience people and their experiences that may be something that I wasn't exposed to in my earlier years in life, and I always craved learning more. I was just genuinely curious, like, okay, so what was it like for you to do this back home, or what were some of the things that were done back home that are different from what we're doing here, just to open things up and create this sense of community. And it seems nowadays that people are so disgruntled going into work. The management isn't happy either, so it just seems to be a really, unfortunately, a sad place to go to work. So, what are some of the findings you've seen in the research you've been doing?
Yeah, I agree with everything which you are saying. So I believe that nowadays, especially after pandemic, where we face a lot of mental challenges, like with mental health and so on, that's why everything, our private life, we start bringing as well to corporate world. So we are not able anymore to separate because more and more we are working from home. We really adjust to this lifestyle. Like a lot of people just prefer to be at home, just a little bit isolate themselves. So I would say what I'm saying is that corporates or companies, they try to bring people back. They don't want, and they don't want for several reasons. Why it's comfortable? One thing, it's because it's comfortable, and they settle everything. But another thing, it's we start lacking some social skills. Like a lot of time, even I had to rebuild, like learned how to speak to people in front of them. I remember after pandemic, where I had to be back to training room or in front of the people, I was like, oh wow, I'm stressed, I'm really stressed, like it would be for my first time. And we are no more able to hide what is really going on with us, because when it's just online work, we can close our laptop, nobody gonna see us. When we are coming back to social life, that we interact with people in the office and so on, then we are not able to hide this for a really long time. So I would say that what really now matters, and this is also the findings which I'm doing, like which coming up from research which I'm doing, and as well working with leaders, it's that now doesn't matter which, I would say, position person has, they struggle with the same things. And nowadays leaders, they need to deal even more with themselves, taking this responsibility of achieving goals, of having like to empower people, and also being inclusive. There's a lot of things which is going on even from this leadership perspective, that even in Europe, for example, we start having more KPI to reach, even with European Union, it's obligating companies to have. So people are a lot of time they're saying like, Monica, how we can not to get crazy because we are overwhelmed. We don't know how to do. First, as well, this is what you mentioned about having this people from different background and so on. For most of people with who I'm working, this is a new topic. So everybody are scared because they don't know what does it mean? What should I say? Not to offend somebody. And this is bringing and increasing, I would say, new factors which are stressing people, and as well new tactics how they can deal with it. So I would say that now it's a really huge need to even open up and speak, even that something is difficult. In my culture, where I'm coming from, we are really great with this. We love complain. So we are laughing that this is, like national therapy. Because we are used to, for example, to complain and speak about things which are difficult, but we are not able to navigate things which are nice. So, we need to always balance this. And especially when we have this diverse environment, some cultures, for example, people from certain cultures, they are more positive. Like we perceive, for example, Americans, right? Everything is amazing and you are more cheerful than, for example, we are. We are more hiding our positive emotions, let's say. We even have sentences like, that we shouldn't be too happy, don't, because then something bad will happen and so on. So even when you ask somebody, how are you? This is, you might get different answers. So I would say that nowadays as well, we need to really be mindful and reading what somebody is meaning when it's answering this simple question.
Yeah, it's because we're a global economy and we interact with people from around the world. There's those little nuances
Oh, yeah.
where certain cultures are everything's great when it really isn't, but they're just trying to put a happy face on a situation where the Eastern European, Poland as an example, I admire, quite frankly, the truthfulness of it. In a way, it's like because I'm in the States, so I admire people from New York, for example, because I'm not from that area, but I admire people
Mm-hmm.
from New York because they will tell you what they see. They don't hide it. They don't try to be too polite. They'll tell you exactly how they see it, and I think there's a lot to be said about that. Yes, it might sting, especially if you're not used to the abruptness or the bluntness of the statement. But the purpose from it is not to cause the other person harm by telling you, no, that is a lousy project. It's not going to work. You're going to lose customer base by rolling that out. You need to think about this a little bit further. Okay, yeah, that might sting some people, but being truthful is going to hopefully eliminate the getting way down the path and then realize, why are we rolling this out? I told you 3 months ago this was a garbage project, and why are we spending so much time and effort? We're 3 months behind now on what we should be doing because you've been spinning your wheels on this that isn't going to work. So it's kind of a harmonization, but I think ultimately the clearer the communication can be with your team and with your stakeholders, the better you're going to be. And I can only speak for myself. I thrive in environments where things are clearly laid out. This is what it is. Doesn't mean you can't have fun and enjoy life and enjoy the work you're doing. But again, there's certain cultures where you might say something that you think is funny, but won't be funny to somebody else. And sometimes it feels like dancing on eggshells in a way where you don't want to break anything. But on the other side, if you're afraid of doing something, you know, talk it out and say, okay, this is a phrase we used to say where I'm from, and it means this. It's not meant to harm. It's kind of, making light of a situation because this is a serious matter. So it's not trying to hurt anybody or upset anybody, but that's how it is. And once people have a better understanding where people are coming from, they'll recognize it. And what's funny, and I find this entertaining in a way, is when someone that is normally pretty straight-laced, stoic, not, they don't say anything, with humor or anything like that. They're a serious person. When they will tell a joke or say something to be funny, I know it's work for them to do it, but I find it really cute. It's like, oh, you're trying to fit in and trying to be, make us all feel comfortable. I celebrate that. The joke wasn't right, but I know where you were coming from that. But again, it's one of those things to, bottom line, to get to know each other a little bit better and support each other, where we are. And I think when we do that, that makes for healthier workplaces. It improves the workplace culture. You have better productivity because people are working together with all of their differences, and creating better products and services, which the world desperately needs.
I agree. And what we also can see that people start longing for really deep connection. And I would say this is globally, that we start seeing that a lot of things which we were doing, they were like, just on the layer and superficial. And we are longing for this deep understanding. And of course, in workplace, uh, it's not a place a lot of time where we create like, lifetime friendships, but as well, this is happening and it's great. But even if we look on Gallup Institute, they prepare like 12 questions which help companies, or generally like allowed us to measure how people are engaged. One of the question is like, if in the company where I'm working, I have somebody who cares about me. So this is very meaningful. And that's why, this is what you said. Sometimes if people just try and we appreciate that they try, or we are conscious what's behind this, how much it costs them sometimes to act in certain way, or if they are quiet or maybe not smiling and so on, that this is part of them, that we don't need to be so judgmental and so on, just try to understand. However, if each person is dealing with a lot of personal things, I would say, and we are in the rush and we have a lot of things to do and like a lot of projects. So sometimes we forget about it. Something what for me was eye-opener, I would say, that it's after one, I was working with one of group of managers, and they told me after this project that it was the one thing which they're taking with them, it's that behind computer, it's a human being. So they need to remember about this. And this is, I would say, the most important. Another thing which you mentioned, it's also that we forget to have fun, to have joy, what we are doing, because we are just running. We want to achieve things and then, go and do other things a lot of times. That's why I'm also working with Lego Series Play. And a lot of time when I'm bringing this to the room office, at the beginning, people are like, what? We're going to play Lego in the workshop, leadership workshops? Even CEOs, they are like, whoa, what's going on here? I hope nobody going to see me. But then, it brings this fulfillment, this fun, which they had in the past when they were kids. And it's also, I believe that time around the world that we need to remind ourselves that playfulness and fun, even when we're doing things, it's not only for kids, it's childish. This is part of us. We need to have this part of our life, which is bringing us joy, excitement, and just happiness.
I'm a big fan. Although I didn't play with Legos as a kid, as an adult, I really appreciate, the creativity that it brings back in people. Because I think when when you work in an organization or you've been working for several years, sometimes that joy and happiness gets, diminished in your life. And building Legos and building kits, or I help out with an organization that does Lego robotics and coding and whatnot. So the students will build robots and code the robots to do certain things and all of that. And just watching the creativity of it, and they're like, okay, I want to try it this way. I'm going to have it do this instead. What that does is it brings back the creativity and reinstalls it into the culture of an organization to have opportunities to be creative. And I understand there are certain sectors that creativity is not necessarily welcomed. Public accounting, for example. You don't want creative accounting. That's not good. That can be problematic. But there's other industries where having an element of curiosity and creativity in your workplace will go a long way for new ideas, new innovations, a variety of different things. And again, we talk about, the workplace culture and, the challenges that so many organizations have. And, obviously the book Culture Map that you're familiar with, I believe,
Yes.
touches on that a lot. And I think for organizations that are struggling with um, reinventing or fixing or it's basically implementing a culture in their organization, what are some of the insights that you share in that book?
I would say in this book, we need to be mindful even how we introduce innovations and how we speak about them. Exactly, this is also cultural aspect which matters. So, and a lot of time it's even for me challenging because Central Europe or in many European countries, we start from data, so how this come and so on. So it's a little bit boring. It's very scientific, I would say, approach. And then we have another way of looking at things like, so what we can do, what we can achieve with this, so where we are going, what it brings to our life. So I would say that there is more space for this playfulness because with data, like sciences, I'm also from academia, so I know how to navigate this. And it's interesting because even in this area, I try to bring some creativity or even fun because we don't need to see even with this Lego that it needs to be that we just play and like you said with accounting, yeah, this is like serious numbers, so we should be mindful about this. But even the atmosphere which we are bringing to workplace, this is important. I remember I was working with one team which there was no space for creativity. They had to do from one to B, from A to B things, and there was no, let's say, space for be creative. However, they brought some fun to the team, and they create the day, the word of the day. And they had to use this word during the working day, and this they start counting and so on. So there was like some playfulness aspect. So that's why we can also see this in certain cultures. This is what you said mentioned about the culture map book, that certain cultures will longing for more playfulness because this aspect of interaction with people, it's something would build a team. So we don't focus only on the task. We also need to spend some time with each other. So this is building trust. And this is one of the dimensions which are mentioned in this book. And in other, we are just focusing on tasks. And there is no space, let's say, for this jokes or, like fun during the working day. So this is something I would say meaningful, what we need to take even from this book. And I encourage people to read it, have a look, because it's really well written and as well explaining a lot of about nowadays working places and as well like humans being, because this is what is interesting is it's not only about where we're coming from, also which we have the personality traits. I remember I was working with one team, it was American, Canadian, Guatemalan and French, and they made like by themselves, they try to place where they are in these dimensions, and it came to they are completely different, like in opposite side where it shows with the countries nationalities, and we were laughing and said like, oh wow, this is so unusual for us to see this gap. And yeah, so I would say that being curious and also looking or different perspectives, even this cultural one, it's something what really expands our worldview.
And you mentioned the word trust too. That's such a critical component in an organization. And uh, managers and leaders need to trust their employees, and their employees need to trust their leaders and management that that collectively we're all here to uh, for a greater good, to create a better product or a service to our clients, and improve the benefits that our community sees, and then obviously globally as well. It's amazing how many touch points we'll have in a workplace, and what that can do for the entire planet, not just your local community. It's something to take into mind. And I think the trust element of it is so important, and it's a key component to healthy workplace cultures. Is when you have an environment, okay, I trust that management's going to do their best. Doesn't mean they're going to be right all the time, or they're not going to make mistakes, or the employees too. But there's an element of trust saying, I know that their heart is in to do the best job that they can here, and all we can do is create that environment so they can. And when you have all those pieces come together, it takes work. It's not something you set it and forget it, but when you do that, it eliminates a lot of problems that we see organizations struggling with. Because if you can get the trust component there, everything else over time will fall into the right spots, and then you can really be a productive organization that's making an impact in your community and the world.
And we need to be very mindful what means to build trust, how we can build this trust for each person, because this is what you said, it's a key element. And a lot of people just look on this element from their perspective, especially leaders, right? So they trust people who are similar to them, or they are familiar with their style of working, of delivering things, of being or interacting with people during the meetings. A lot of people, for example, with who I'm working, they struggle to present their things, to be active. Because if we look on, for example, Asian culture, so they don't, raise their voice in the meeting just to speak up. You need to give them space, right? The same, it's for many European nationalities that we are just waiting, or, we don't want to look dumb, or say something not properly, or opposite, they are like too active and asking too many questions when other people might feel extremely uncomfortable. This is something what happened to me when I was living and working in Germany. I thought that I'm direct and asking questions, but then I faced it. No, it's it's not at all about me. They can do it way better. So that's why it's important as well to look if we have some bias, or maybe what is triggering us, why we don't trust this person, because is it that something really happening, or maybe it's that we just need something different. And that's why nowadays we need to really speak up also what we need. And a lot of people have a, I would say, challenge with this, just to say what they really want. And a lot of time when I'm like leaders with who I'm working, and we're talking about, I'm being empowered leader, being meaningful, like meaning in the sense like inclusive leader. And I'm asking, so what do you need as a leader? What is your communication style? What kind of feedback you like to provide, or what is difficult with this? And they are like, I don't know. They were taught some techniques and so on, but they forgot about themselves. So this is a key element as well about building trust, to see what we need to be trustworthy, and as well to trust other people. And then it shouldn't be any more top secret topic, let's say, like taboo. We should openly express things. And this is what you mentioned as well, when we are working with such a diverse people nowadays, different genders, right? Race, nationalities, communication style, personalities, and so on. Open communication is crucial, because otherwise, I don't know what you have in your mind, right? You can smile to me, you can nod your head, but I'm not reading your mind. I'm not fortune teller. So this is something what we need to be conscious and have a courage to do, just to speak up what we really need. But this is a way to discover, let's say, what is important to us, and then of course what is important to others.
Very important. And just to let you know, there's really nothing going on in my mind. So you don't have to worry about looking. It won't take you long to find anything because there's nothing there. So, Monica, I've loved this conversation. Where can people find out more about you and all this amazing work you're doing?
Thank you so much. So I really love to talk to you, and it was a pleasure to have a chance.
That's great. Like I said, I'll have all the links to find you and all of that in the show notes. So, Monica, thank you again for being on the show.
Thank you so much.